Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 City Council meeting of March 25th, 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Core.
Here.
Councilmember Arias.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Weir.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Coman.
Here.
And Councilmember Bakirtosh.
Here.
I almost forgot you. Well, welcome to everyone. It's wonderful to have you here participating in the civic process. We have a whole section of our interns who are in the youth job program, and I hear that they are very, very surprised that so much goes on in the city that they never knew about, including how trash gets picked up. So to all of you, thank you, staff, and thank you to all of you who support city government. It's been a joy thus far to have you here, and we just hope that you will consider coming back and serving. Tonight, we had the pleasure of having Pastor Marla Black of Dominion Worship Center to offer the invocation. Pastor, thank you so much for all that you do. I know that you're having a youth conference soon, and it's been a pleasure to be with you during the women's conference, and thank you for your service to the community. Thank you for providing meals to those in need and supporting Teen Challenge, serving in juvenile hall and retirement homes. And then following the invocation, we have a very special person to lead us in the pledge. Amrita Singh, who's an 8th grader at St. John's Lutheran School. She is the Kern County Spelling Bee champion. After spelling the word, let's see how many of you even know this word, Chorton. And after you do the pledge, maybe you can tell us, spell it and tell us what it means. She's going to be representing us at the Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. in May, and she secured first place in Math Counts at California's Kern County chapter competition. She has a 4.2 GPA. She plays tennis and basketball, and she aspires to attend a top medical school, following in the footsteps of both her parents, Dr. Jasleen Dougal, who's proudly filming right over there, and then Dr. Jeet Singh. So at this point, would you all stand, and we'll have Pastor Marla go first, and then Amrita, you'll go next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marla Black, and I pastor with my husband, Larry Black, for the past 27 years at Dominion Worship Center in our beautiful city of Bakersfield. Thank you, Mayor Go, for the invitation, and I want to thank all of the council members for your service. I consider it an honor and privilege to pray with you today. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, I invite and welcome your presence to come and abide in this room and in this meeting today. I ask that you would bring to the council's remembrance of why they desired or felt called to serve our community. Encourage them today. They are in the front lines, and I ask that you would renew their strength, release a fresh boldness and courage to stand for truth and justice, motivated with compassion. Where they may have felt persecuted at times for doing what is right, please bring healing to their hearts. I pray protection and understanding for their families as they unselfishly lead our city. Restore the council's faith and trust in you, Lord, where frustration or disappointment may have tried to settle in their mind and hearts. We thank you, Lord, for our city council. As they steward and govern today, I pray for wisdom, guidance, and direction in all the decisions they make. May they be peacemakers and not peacekeepers. May the council come into unity and peace in all that is discussed without haste. Release new strategies from heaven, creative ideas to solve issues that we know only you can give, Jesus. Help them to prioritize properly the issues at hand for our city. Lord, I ask that you would raise up Bakersfield to be a model for those to follow and grant us favor in this state. I take authority over all the powers of darkness that would want to destroy, bring chaos, or confusion into our city. I declare that no weapon that would be or could be formed against our city, that it will not prosper. I ask for anything hidden, deceptive, or manipulative to be brought to the light to be dealt with. I declare Psalm 91 as protection over our city. Now I pray, Lord, for you to bless beautiful Bakersfield. May we all choose to honor you, Lord Jesus, walk humbly before you, and acknowledge you in all our ways. Amen.
Amen. I'm right down. Just go right there.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated, and would you stay there? So proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so what was this winning word and what does it mean? Well, let's see whether anybody even knows what it means.
So my word that I won on was Chorten. It's spelled Chorten, and it's a Buddhist shrine. And yeah, that was the winning word, but I'd never heard it before, so yeah.
Does anybody in the audience would anybody have known what that was before he said this? You're exceptional.
I know, thank you. I really appreciate it.
When I saw the word, it's
I know, but I'm really grateful to be here, so thank you.
And would you like to introduce your special family member?
Oh, yeah. So standing right there is my mom, Jocelyn Dougal, and I'm really grateful that she could be here to bring me. Thank you.
We are so proud of you. We're wishing the best.
I feel very honored. Even yesterday we were invited to be her mom at California Retired Teachers Association. And me and my husband, Dr. Singh, we know a lot of people in the community. And it is so nice that not to be called as doctors, but Amrita's parents.
Amrita's parents, that's what it is. So it's my honor to present this to you in honor of your winning first place in the 2026 Kern County Spelling Bee Championship and in recognition of your hard work and outstanding efforts to achieve excellence. Congratulations on this exceptional milestone. And then when you come back as the national champ, we'll just do it again. Shall we take a photo there? We're going to... Adam, you'll get that to Danielle right away. Okay. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We request that you turn off your phones. Please be courteous in the use of cameras and videos. For safety reasons, and as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chamber or in the lobby. Applause is allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but not during other portions of the meeting. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts the meeting may result in expulsion and/or the chambers being cleared. Behavior that disrupts the meeting includes repetitive statements, shouting, hate speech, interrupting staff or presenters during the meeting, speaking out of turn, and outbursts from the audience. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Presentations item 4A, proclamation to Chad Provençal, Assistant Principal for Bakersfield Adult School, and Joe Turner, Job Spot Administrator for Renaissance at Baker, declaring March 23rd to the 27th, 2026 Adult Education Week in Bakersfield.
Well, it's always such a pleasure to visit the adult school because you have learners who really want to be there. It's not quite like in high school being forced to be there, but these are adults who are eager to learn, and it's always wonderful to see that eagerness. It's my honor to be able to present this proclamation. Whereas the state of California will observe Adult Education Week March 23rd through 27th, and whereas the Kern High School District, along with its Board of Trustees, acknowledges that the Bakersfield Adult School serves the changing economic and cultural needs of a vigorous, expanding community, and whereas Bakersfield Adult School prepares more than 5,800 students to meet their academic, personal, and professional goals by enrolling in one or more of the diploma GED programs, and whereas in 2025, 283 adults received their high school diploma, 51 adults earned their GED, 617 adults at the Bakersfield Adult School and the Lerdo Detention Center completed one or more career technical education programs, and 75 adults in the Lerdo Detention Facility completed court-ordered parenting and neglect classes to reunite with their families. Now, therefore, I, Karen Go, Mayor of the City of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim March 23rd through March 27th as Adult Education Week in our city and salute the administration, teachers, and students at Bakersfield Adult School and honor each of them for their efforts and accomplishments. It's my honor to be able to present this to you. Whoever wants to give the comments, you can vote, and then we'll take a vote.
Thank you, Mayor Go. It's an honor and a privilege to stand before you to be recognized for the Adult Ed Week, but it's truly the teachers and the staff members who are the champions here in receiving this award. It's the ones that get up every day and open up the school to make the students feel safe and coming to get that education and to achieve that high school diploma to pursue secondary education. This is one of the things that Bakersfield Adult School want to be able to make sure that adult students have an opportunity to do so. And we are really thankful here today to be able to do that and stand before you. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Presentations item 4B, proclamation to Paul Geip, coordinator for the Bakersfield Parkinson's Support Group, Nancy Niles of the Bakersfield Parkinson's Support Group, and Harry Starkey, president of the Parkinson's Association of Northern California, declaring April 2026 as Parkinson's Awareness Month in Bakersfield.
Today, we're here to bring increased awareness about an issue that we might not know that much about, but let me tell you a little bit about this with this proclamation. Whereas Parkinson's disease, a chronic progressive neurological disease, is estimated to affect more than 10 million people worldwide and approximately 1 million people in the United States, and whereas Parkinson's disease is the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease with 90,000 new people diagnosed each year in the United States, and whereas there is no objective test or biomarker for Parkinson's disease, and there is no cure or drug to slow or halt the progression of the disease, and whereas organizations and groups including the Bakersfield Parkinson's Support Group are working diligently to bring awareness to our community and share ways residents can support those impacted by Parkinson's. Now, therefore, I, Karen Go, Mayor of the City of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Parkinson's Awareness Month in our city and encourage residents to raise awareness, support research, and create compassionate community for those impacted by Parkinson's disease. It's my honor to be able to present this to you, and you're welcome to share words.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Mayor Go, her staff, and of course the members of the City Council for their support of our proclamation. Parkinson's disease is one of the fastest growing neurological diseases in the country. A new case is diagnosed every 6 minutes in the United States. Someone you know or love has likely been affected by Parkinson's disease. The disease is so prevalent here in Bakersfield, we are the center of what's called Parkinson's Alley. However, Parkinson's is not inevitable, and there is much that we can do to prevent it. Education is one way to alert the public about the disease, and the Council's action helps us do that. While there is no cure for Parkinson's, there are treatments, and there are support groups like ours that offer a welcoming environment for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers. We are here to help as much as we can. Again, I'd like to thank you for helping Bakersfield become more aware of the disease, and I'd like to introduce my wife, Nancy Neese. She's a person with Parkinson's. And with me today is Ernie Montoya. His wife has Parkinson's disease. He's a local businessman. And we are part of the support group, and we appreciate council support and Mayor Go's support. Thank you very much. Yep.
We're now at the public statements portion. In keeping with Council's resolution, public statements are received at different times. Depending on the item, I'll call on the city clerk to call for public statements. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and place it in the tray next to the speaker's podium. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on today's agenda or a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda public statements. If you're here to speak on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you'll be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes total for all non-agenda item public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I'll call for you at the appropriate time. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers to regain order of the meeting, you'll be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when your item is called. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we've received 4 speaker cards regarding items not listed on tonight's agenda. The first public speaker is Matthew Martin.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. My name is Matthew Martin, and I'm here today to talk about Great American Cleanup, and it's such a wonderful thing. So keep Bakersfield beautiful. I'm the chair of Great American Cleanup this year. It's our 23rd, so I'm here to invite the mayor, who's always a big part of it, and the council. This year it's going to be Saturday, April 18th at Yokitz Park. It really is a great thing. For those that don't know what it is, we get 5,000 folks in our community that come together and volunteer. Last year we had 68,000 pounds of trash that we picked up just on that day. So it's really cool. It's my 8th year involved with the committee, and this year I'm chairing. And we have a lot of great sponsors. Last year we had the Mayor's Challenge for the high schools. Miramonte and BCHS tied, so we're trying to get more folks out, more teams. So I encourage you all to attend. It's a wonderful thing. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We encourage all of you to come out. Next speaker, please.
Michael.
Oh, let's look at the results. Why don't you come back up and can you just go over the results, just so our council members know. Each of you appoints 2 people to the committee, and these are the results. We had a rainy day last year, and these are still the results.
Yeah,
go
so
ahead and just go over those.
63,000 pounds of litter, 2,000 pounds of mixed recycling, 4,500 pounds of organic recycling. And what's cool is we've engaged high schools and so many different groups and community folks that have come together and sponsored. And it's such a beautiful thing. We always have a different shirt every year that's a different color. And to get folks out as a community, and then we come together and celebrate at Yokitz Park with a barbecue. Shout out to Salty's Barbecue this year, who's sponsoring, Reyes Coca-Cola. We got so many folks, Cal Water, so I encourage you to get out there, get a team. It really is a lot of fun. We start our cleanup at 8, and then we do the ceremony at the park around 11, so it's a great time. Really
Thank you,
is.
Mr. Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Yeah, I wanted to know, I had an anonymous person send me a text and asked if they could contribute $1,000 to the first place prize for the schools and then $500 to the second place prize. And I said, I don't know, I can ask the mayor. I think it'd be great to get.
You know, that sounds really good. So let's move forward.
So it's done. It's on the books.
All right, even more incentives. So with each of the high schools, they're allowed to get as many people. It doesn't just have to be high school students, although many of them bring many high school students, but parents, friends, and all. And so usually the funds are designated to the ASB, and they do whatever they need to do, or once in a while it's a specific club within the school that brings out the most students. But again, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Michael Turnipseed.
Madam Clerk. Yes. Welcome.
I use all this paper. I don't want to see it go to waste, you know, so bring it here down. Good evening. I'm Michael Turnipseed. I represent the Kern County Taxpayers Association. And I'm going to talk about a very nerdy subject, your annual financial report. For the last 4 years, it has not been done on time. It's supposed to be done by January 31st of the following year. And for the last basically 3 years, they've been at least 21 months late. And 25 hasn't even started yet. It was due 2 months ago. So, the issue matters especially because Bakersfield is likely approaching major sewer financing, maybe another utility financing, and this is the basis of this is your financial statement to the world that everybody looks at. And I think it's very important. So I think it's very important that the city gets its house in order quickly. It needs to create a financial reporting task force. It really needs to bring in a government accounting specialist who can make sure that these are closed. Most cities try to have theirs done in 4 months, and yours is now 22 months late for the 24 year. Number 3 is the establishment of an audit committee with the council. Many cities have audit committees. I don't think you have one. You need to modernize your financial systems. Again, adopt the 120-day ACFR goal. And the larger governance lesson is a late ACFR is not just an accounting issue. It reflects the operational maturity of city government. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Turnipseed. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Jamel Wiley.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jamel Willie. I'm a political science major at Bakersfield College and a Lakeview resident from East Bakersfield. And I wanted to talk, usually around summertime, we see a spike in violent crime. And so I wanted to approach the city council to see what your proactive approach is to this. There's various different cities that have tried different approaches. I passed around various examples. Baltimore was one which took a holistic approach to violent crime, approached these small members of community that are causing the majority of crime, offer them housing, offer them job support, offer them to get back in school, and more importantly, they offer them trauma counseling, because that's what a lot of people in my community suffer for. They've experienced trauma throughout their life and never have dealt with that. And so in turn, they take it out on the streets. And so I'm offering various different ways so we could get this under control before anything starts, and it's a snowball effect. I'm a member of the community, and I'm pretty sure if you drove down the street, you wouldn't be able to tell me from people that are actually gangbanging. And I'm pretty sure other members of different communities that want to do my community harm wouldn't be able to tell the difference either. I have 4 young children that like to play outside, and I'm hoping they can enjoy the summer without anything, them experiencing any trauma. And so, there's various things. If you need a liaison, I'm at the park every day working out with these gentlemen that are in the streets. If you need anybody that can advocate for you guys to them, I'll be more than willing. And there's also, just quick, there was a misconduct from a small amount of police that we need to, advocate for and get that settled for that trust to be involved so we can make a difference.
Thank you, Mr. Willie. Vice Mayor.
I just want to ask our city manager, could you share some information on what we are doing through, whether it's CalVIP, and if there's an opportunity to have a community meeting collectively with the ward as well as with folks who are leading these efforts already. And I appreciate you coming and bringing this to the city council so that we can have a collective conversation. And when we have willing people who volunteer their time, I want to make sure that we take advantage of it and can form some kind of collective effort in the local community.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. We're on the same page. Thank you, Jamel, for bringing forward these thoughts and ideas. And I think we can make a connection from our Office of Violence Intervention and Prevention staff with Jamel because as a new office that we've established in the last few years and been able to get grant funding, we have initiated our gun violence reduction strategy that is very focused on violent crime. In fact, our technical assistance providers from University of Pennsylvania worked in Baltimore, and we've worked with those same folks here, as well as the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform is working deeply in Baltimore. They've come and done trainings with our new team here as well. And we have followed the data to identify that it really is a very small percentage of the population that is responsible for 60 to 70% of gun violence in any given community. And we've been very fortunate to be in implementation of that new program the last few years. And from 2021 to 2024, we saw a 70% reduction in shootings and homicides as a result of that effort. There's always more that we can do, and we're always looking for good partners who can help us do that, particularly with informed experience and from the neighborhood. And so we look forward to connecting our staff with Jamel and also looking, there may be some other ideas in there, in addition to a gun violence reduction strategy or community violence interventions. There may be other ideas, and we're always happy to look at some of those as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Wiley, thank you so much for coming today and offering us this report. I appreciate it so much. Just taking a first look at it, it sounds like it feels like a lot of the recommendations, particularly as it relates to credible messenger intervention program, sounds a lot like our CalVIP program. And so I'd really encourage you to reach out to our violence intervention team and see what we're doing. I would also like to reach out to you, if you don't mind, and share with you some of the work that we're doing in Lakeview, which is now Ward 2. My colleague, Councilmember Arias, and I have been working, partnering for a number of years now because we believe the same thing you do. You said it really well in terms of taking a holistic approach to violence reduction and actually improving the health and safety of a neighborhood. And that requires far more than enforcement and prevention, but also just building up a neighborhood and making significant, meaningful investments. And that's something that we've been working on for some time. And I'd like to share with you some of that work and get your thoughts as well as where we can continue to grow that work. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is that the end of that group?
Mayor Go, we have one more public speaker.
Would you please call that person?
Johnny Alaguez.
So I'd like to read off of it just so I don't go off script. So after listening to the speech on adult school, I have a recommendation for the council. Not all of you guys, just some of you guys. The Bakersfield Adult School should offer morals and ethics for city council members, specific city council members, specifically those getting grants for $22,942,035. They just did a retroactive amendment for this city council member's church for $9,533,219 for the next 5 years. So morals and ethics are really important, to me at least. Anyway, with that said, maybe we could use that money for the sewer rate that you guys are trying to do. I mean, right now, or last time around, David Couch came here and I was here. David Couch offered to help with the sewer rates, to do some kind of collaboration with the city of Bakersfield, but it appears you guys didn't do that because the rates are still going up way too high to, I think, everybody's liking. Just so you know, I actually had a provisional patent on a water conservation device that I invented. I also worked with Cal Water for years as their maintenance. I ran a company that was shut down as a result of you guys. And I did all the maintenance for Cal Water. So I'm very familiar with water, sewage. So if you guys need help, let me know. But I highly recommend the adult school provides moral and ethics classes for you-know-who. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
Mayor Go, that was our final speaker for non-agenda item public statements. We also have not received any speaker cards regarding agenda items.
Thank you. And just want to make sure, because this would be the time to speak on appointments, item 6A, or items listed under consent calendar, item 7. So seeing that we have not received any, we will now move on to the next item. Next item, please.
Appointments item 6A, one appointment to the Keep Bakersfield Beautiful Committee, Ward 6 alternate member, due to the resignation of David Baker. Applications for appointment have been received from Hovik Badurian, Jesse Delawal, LaDonna Dodge, Troy Fidus, Nayeli Franco, Jenny Curdy, Daniel Nolan, Lindsay Parker, Sandy Turner, and James Howard Wheeler.
Thank you. This appointment is by ward. Therefore, I'm going to call on Councilmember Bashir Tosh to share his alternate Keep Bakersfield Beautiful member nomination for Ward 6.
My nomination would be LaDonna Dodge, please.
Thank you. And so we're going to say that that is a motion. Is it? LaDonna Dodge.
Motion to approve
LaDonna Dodge.
LaDonna Dodge to the Keep Bakersfield Beautiful Committee as the Ward 6 alternate.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Dodge, for your willingness to serve. We'll see you there at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. That's what we do. But thank you for your willingness to serve. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Consent calendar items 7A through 7J for approval.
Thank you. And we have had Councilmember Bashir Tosh pull 7H3. I haven't received any other requests for recusal or to be pulled. So, Madam Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve consent calendar items 7A through 7J with the exception of 7H3.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your vote.
Mayor Go, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Can I please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Vice Mayor Kaur,
Yes.
Councilmember Arias,
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilmember Weir,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Coman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bashir Tosh. Motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you. And so now with 7HC, Councilmember Bashir Tosh pulled that, and I think Councilmember Weir also wanted the same item for separate consideration. Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Can I get an explanation on what that is, please?
Yeah, Councilmember, appreciate the question. At your last meeting, the council authorized staff to move forward with a purchase and a lease and a potential purchase and sale agreement for this property located at 1430 and 1440 Truxtun Avenue. At that time, there was a request to have some additional information by council, and so staff, in an effort to respect that request for that additional information, we didn't move forward with a deposit at that time. This number and this amount was included in that prior staff item. It's consistent with the lease and purchase and sale agreement, but we hadn't appropriated the dollars yet to make the deposit until we gave one more meeting until council could review some of the documentation that was requested. But this is just it's consistent with the same action of 2 weeks ago. It's no additional documentation or changes to the deal. It's just we hadn't moved forward with that piece until we came back.
So that money goes before we spend the $400,000 on the due diligence aspect first, right?
Yes, and actually, thank you, Councilmember, because I failed to mention that specifically this is a refundable deposit. If we choose not to move forward with the purchase and sale, that money comes back to us. But this is just essentially like an earnest money to be able to be in the due diligence period.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Councilmember Weir.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Could you just paraphrase what the financial position that we're in now?
In general, I assume, Councilmember?
Yes.
Yeah, we're in a period where our expenditures are increasing at a greater rate than our revenues. And so we are in a mode where we're restructuring some of our fiscal spend to be back in line with the lower revenues than we have than our expenditures have been.
Okay. How about next year? What does next year look like?
It looks to be probably the same, Councilmember. I think we'll be in a mode where we continue to identify ways to prioritize funding on what's most important, reduce spending, find efficiencies, because we expect that our our costs will continue to rise faster than our revenues.
And in the midst of that, and then adding to that our water problem, we're going to spend $13-14 million to buy a building that I don't know if it'll be occupied or not. Apparently we have some need for that. I'm not exactly sure why, but if things aren't going well, why are we thinking of a $14 million purchase?
That's a great question, Council Member. This is actually part of our cost savings and restructuring plan. We're spending a large amount of lease monies every year for staff office space. We ran out of staff office space back in 2021. And this is principally for our police department. As we were growing the department with the Public Safety Vital Services tax, we needed new office space. There wasn't enough office space in this core set of city buildings downtown at the time, and so we leased office space. Unfortunately, that lease cost has grown over time, and this actually will help us save about $1 million a year in ongoing annual operating dollars, while also acquiring an asset that has a future value and life for the city. And so while I appreciate your question that it may seem contradictory, it's actually part of a savings strategy that gets us out of a lease scenario. We stop paying those lease payments and we're able to have a city asset that can house our staff without further ongoing costs.
And we're doing that by buying a $14 million building?
That's correct. There's a few other aspects to this where the building has other occupants, and so they help to pay revenue. They pay lease revenues to the city that helps pay for the operating costs of the building, and it gets us out of a lease that is increasingly less sustainable for us to continue to pay for that space somewhere else.
How much is that lease?
That lease this year is $900,000. Next year it will be over $1 million.
Okay, $14 million over here, $1 million over there. What makes you so sure that tenants are going to thrive to that building? Because the building's, I don't know, it doesn't seem like anybody wants to own it right now.
Council Member, there are actually tenants already in the building, and several of those have long-term leases. Some others will have leases that may come up in the next few years, but we would occupy a portion of that building with our own staff, and also there are tenants in there, and we feel confident there will continue to be tenants in that building. And again, I think the one-time expenditure is notable, but we're able to amortize that over time and be able to pay down the costs of that purchase. But even in the short run, we have a notable savings on the lease costs or the office space costs compared. It'll be cheaper for us to be in that building on our annual costs than being in this other building. Plus, our annual, essentially, lease payments back to ourselves go towards the purchase of that building over time. And again, in a short time frame, we'll be the owners, and we won't have that payback of the cost for the building, and that will be an annual savings of more than $1 million a year.
I hear what you're saying. It just doesn't add up. It's contradictory to good finance and what we need to do here. We're in a position here that money is very tight. We're in a position next year that money is going to be very tight, and yet we're going to spend $14 million on a building which we don't know if we will, we have no idea what the tenants are going to be in there. It's an old building. It's going to need lots of improvements. We have a water issue here that, it's $1 billion issue. It seems like to me this is the wrong time for any kind of notion of buying a $14 million building that we really, I don't know. I'm not sure that we have a necessity for that. So I'll make a motion to to not approve this. Thank you.
Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for the presentation. We have had thorough discussion on this item. I think it makes total sense for the city. While we continue to struggle budgetarily, we are making adjustments as we speak into the future that will also include this, that will ultimately reduce the ongoing costs of the city. Again, it's been thoroughly discussed, so I'll make a motion that we approve 7H3. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So we take the second motion first, and so we'll take Councilmember Arias's motion to approve staff's recommendation. Do you have a motion? Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Council Members Weir and Bashir Tosh voting no.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Reports item 10A, Community Choice Aggregation Update.
Mr. Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We are providing this presentation tonight in response to a council referral. We've actually had a couple of referrals on this topic in the last few years for staff to go and do analysis to determine if moving forward with the community choice aggregation project would be feasible and a good move for the city of Bakersfield. This presentation tonight actually is going to combine two different presentations. We have several technical experts who have been helping us to do this analysis that are going to share that information with us. First, from CalChoice, which is a JPA that operates community choice aggregators, but also we did a solicitation for individuals who could do this feasibility study for us, and we selected CalChoice to do that study for us. And so Barbara Boswell from CalChoice will be providing this first segment. After Barbara is done, we actually have our partners from Willdan who have helped us on some other energy generation, energy efficiency analysis. Will provide some information about the feasibility of a larger scale actually energy production and municipal energy production. And so Scott Strom and Jason Cottle will help us provide that portion of the presentation. But as we kick it off, we'll turn it over to Barbara to walk us through their analysis related to a CCA.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm Barbara Boswell with California Choice Energy Authority, also known as CalChoice. CalChoice was engaged by the city of Bakersfield to prepare a community choice aggregation or CCA technical study. We no longer call it a feasibility study because we know CCA as a entity is feasible. It's what the costs are and how competitive you can operate a CCA compared to the incumbent IOU. The purpose and methodology of the study was to identify the program benefits and risks of operating a CCA in Bakersfield, identify the critical steps involved in forming the CCA, and then review Bakersfield historical electric usage that we received from PG&E for the prior calendar year to forecast resource requirements of operating the CCA program for eligible customers, and then determine the financial results of that program. So what are the benefits of a CCA? Why would you consider forming one? We've identified three general categories of benefits. One is promoting local control, transparency, and accountability. It provides consumers with a choice where they don't currently have one in terms of provider or where their energy comes from. It also prioritizes local goals and policy objectives. Those revenues that are generated by the CCA are local, and the City Council determines how then that net revenue is spent for the benefit of the city. It also is an opportunity to advance economic development. You can reinvest the CCA program revenues in the local economy. There are no shareholders where there's a dividend being paid to, and so those revenues then are available to the city. It has the potential of creating local jobs and developing new energy projects. You can also utilize the funds for establishing local programs and energy resources. You can develop programs, for example, that are specifically targeted for low income or disadvantaged communities. You can develop resiliency programs and local generation programs, and also offer energy efficiency and other cost savings incentives for the community. There's several steps required to develop a community choice aggregation program. It is a long process. It takes more than a year of planning and steps involved to implement a CCA. We're at the first step, which is completing the technical study. From here, should the council decide they wanted to continue to move forward, you would need to draft and submit what's called an implementation plan to the California Public Utilities Commission. That plan includes steps and information such as what type of governance structure or how you would staff the program, what type of expertise and what that planning is for that. You would need to develop a financing plan for the program and also prepare an energy resource procurement plan. That's then filed with the PUC, and then they certify it to ensure that it included all of the elements required. Once that's completed, and assuming that the PUC did certify it, we would complete regulatory and compliance registrations. The city would then begin developing its operations and developing operating policies and procedures and move forward with that. All of those steps take over a year, and the city is, you can direct staff to develop an implementation plan. That does not lock you into forming and operating the CCA. It's one step in the process. You wouldn't actually be committed to moving forward until April of 2027, which is after the PUC certifies the plan and you've started working in the energy resource adequacy filing program. And so at that point, there's pretty much the commitment to move forward. So there's still time to continue evaluating and determining whether it's right for Bakersfield. So these two charts look at how does your customer base break down between number of accounts and then the energies used. The dark blue section represents residential, and so over 95% of your customer base by count numbers of accounts is residential. However, when you look at how much energy is being used, that's really 50-50 between residential and then the various large, small, and medium businesses in an industry and agriculture. In terms of what type of electric power mix is needed, CCAs must follow the state's requirements with regards to meeting the renewable energy requirements of the state. The laws currently state that we have to procure 60% of the electric supply from renewable energy sources by 2030, and a 100% greenhouse gas-free mandate applies in 2045. So as what's known as a load-serving entity, CCAs have to follow and buy the same mix of power supply that the utilities do. In addition, 65% of the renewable energy must be procured through long-term contracts, which is defined as 10 years or longer in term. So once we had the energy usage and we understood the usage by customer segment, we were able to then determine what the costs of operating and potential revenue we could realize through that program. So we developed a pro forma using a set of assumptions. Again, they're assumptions based on today. We know that our assumptions today, what we are looking at in terms of costs will change, but it does give us the baseline of how does it look from a financial perspective. We don't assume that all customers will participate. So as you may be aware, CCA program, the way the law was written, all customers must be automatically enrolled unless they opt out. And we do know that customers will opt out. And so we assume that at least 10%, we assume 10% of the residential and commercial customers will opt out. Lighting is generally municipal city accounts. We assume that those accounts will stay in. And we also, our rates, when we look at rates, we do it on a cost of service basis. We don't anticipate there being any subsidy or general fund revenues being used to fund the program. We build it to be a self-sustaining program, so cost of service program. So forming a CCA is starting a new business. And as any new business, you have upfront costs before you start bringing in revenue. The study determined that we estimate that upfront cost to be $16 million. About $6.8 million of that are the implementation costs. Those are the costs that you incur prior to even selling any energy to the public. So you'll have staffing and overhead that are incurred in the process of developing the program, setting up the department, and getting ready to serve customers. You need technical experts to help you with forecasting energy, with helping you with the procurement processes, with helping you with the regulatory requirements of filings with the Public Utilities Commission. We have marketing and communication. Because the program is an opt-out program, we are required to notice customers 4 times during a period of time. And so those costs are included in that $6.8 million. And then you have working cash flow. There is timing differences between the time you provide the energy to customers until when they actually pay their bill. And so we have to finance that with working capital. In addition to the implementation costs, there's a financial resource security requirement required to be posted, and then you have to have some upfront power supply costs. And so that's where the $16 million estimated startup costs comes from. This chart just demonstrates that over time, the program would generate sufficient revenue to cover its cost, utilizing a cost of services program. We also assume building into the costs in the revenues is funds for reserves, and then those reserve funds build up to provide a financial stability rate fund, as well as funding for programs out into the future. So how would your rates, based on the cost of services study, compare to what PG&E customers would pay? And we compared the rates that were assumed for the Bakersfield CCA to PG&E and what we considered the high time and the low time. And we're currently in, PG&E's rates are in the low time. So if you were to be operating now, we project that your costs and customers would pay more as a customer of Bakersfield CCA than they would if they were with PG&E. If you were operating last year, they would actually realize a savings. One of the key drivers of that difference is related to what's known as a power charge indifference adjustment, or PCIA, or exit fees. Last year, the PUC changed the methodology in how they determine values of energies in certain rate processes, which resulted in PCIA for CCA customers to be higher than it has been over the last few years. And that's been driving the rates. And then generation rates are low because of it as well for the utilities. It's not unique to PG&E. CCAs throughout the state are dealing with this current rate problem in SCE territory, Southern California Edison territory, and SDG&E territory, San Diego Gas and Electric territory. All of the CCAs are finding themselves in this current situation and looking at what they can do to lower their rates to be more competitive. Do we think that's going to be the same next year? We don't know. It's a rate-setting process that happens every year. It's possible we'd be back more in a more normalized time, and the CCA rates could be lower, but this is what it would look like today if you're operating today. So in summary, the study determined that if you were to establish the CCA program, the benefits are increased local control and decision-making for the city of Bakersfield. It does, again, provide choice. Customers can choose to opt out and stay with the IOU, or take service from the Bakersfield CCA. Currently, that choice doesn't exist for residents and businesses at Bakersfield. You could develop programs that would be responsive to community needs, interests, and policies. And we do expect it would be competitive, but there would be years when you might be higher and also years when you would be lower and offer savings to businesses and residents. And as part of the process of the CCA, you would develop policies to address, procurement, risk management, and financial reserves. I'm part of CalChoice, California Choice Energy Authority, and just quickly who we are. We're a JPA of 8 member agencies. They're all cities that established CCA programs as city enterprise funds. They're not a separate JPA, they're part of the city and an enterprise department within the city. And they joined CalChoice to get the benefits of aggregation in terms of energy procurement, to have better buying power out in the area, as well as to have administrative savings in the form of, again, aggregating and hiring consultants that are doing the same thing for all 8 as opposed to each individually hiring. So they receive cost savings in the administrative portion. We offer a turnkey approach because we already have the technical experts and necessary professionals on staff as part of our service, that you wouldn't have to go out and do RFPs and processes to determine and find those experts to help you with operating your CCA. We would estimate that you could realize about $4 million per year if you were to join CalChoice. The study was prepared, did not assume that you would be a member, but this information is being provided to understand if you were to become a member, what kind of cost savings there might be. And that does conclude my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Boswell. We'll take questions later. City Manager, would you like to make comments before we go to the next presenter?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, as we transition here, I would note that typically, historically, over the last decade plus, most community choice aggregations have seen about a 2 to 3% savings in customer costs. It's been an interesting scenario in just this last year where PG&E has, for the first time in a long time, reduced some of their rates. And so as we think about some of your council actually has a goal around energy independence in our strategic plan. And as we thought about in the long run, these continued escalating costs of utilities, what are some of our options? And again, this is in response to a referral to look at this topic, but also wanted to note that there's a fair amount of work that would go into this process, and there is merit in that work, even at a potentially a 2 or 3% savings. But really, in the big picture, we're trying to think about more creative solutions that could produce game-changing results that aren't just the 2 to 3%. And so as we transition to this next portion, I think coupling this concept with some of these bigger opportunities makes a lot more sense than just doing it for a 2 to 3%. And so we'll turn it over to our partners at Willdan to walk through this portion of the presentation.
Welcome, Willdan.
Thank you very much. Mayor Go and Council, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm Scott Strom, the City of Bakersfield Program Director for Willdan. With me this evening, I have Aaron Buys, our Director of Engineering for the state of California, Julianne Anapol, who is a Financial Services Project Manager, and then Jason Cottle, who is, his reputation precedes him with many accolades, being the former city manager of Lancaster, forming the Lancaster Choice CCA, moving into the energy space, and now a partner with our team as well. So just want to quickly expound on City Manager Clegg's introduction of Willdan and some of the things that we are doing very quickly, what we are doing for the city here very quickly. So as Mayor Clegg mentioned, or excuse me, City Manager Clegg mentioned, we are the energy services partner that was selected by the city about 18 months ago. We're in the process of conducting comprehensive investment grade energy audits for all of the city's buildings, infrastructure, parks, and all of your other assets to develop and implement solutions that create significant, in the multiple millions for the city related to utilities, operational costs, and other revenue sources. And this is done through energy efficiency, on-site generation, water savings, combining with tackling needed CIP projects, given the budget situation, to modernize your facilities for the betterment of the city and the community. And also facilitate funding vehicles that leverage that savings with grants and incentives as well to ideally provide no or low out-of-pocket expenses for the city to make these significant improvement to your city buildings and infrastructure. So tonight's focus, though, is for the purposes of this presentation, we want to introduce how the city of Bakersfield can benefit from getting into municipal energy. That can complement the previous presentation regarding CCA and also independently benefit the city and community for the long term. Additionally, our team at Willdan has the full spectrum of capabilities to identify, develop, build, and support the city on any of these possible pathways that we discussed this evening for either city-owned or other contractual relationships that could financially benefit the city. Before I jump in here, I do want to put out a disclaimer on a few acronyms. You're mostly familiar with many of these, but Distributed Energy Resources, or DER, encompasses solar, batteries, and other on-site generation opportunities for energy. JPA, you're obviously familiar with Joint Power Authority, BESS, Battery Energy Storage. We take for granted that we read all these acronyms off all the time. So, and again, my last disclaimer is my grandma always told me that brevity is not my strongest suit, as you can already tell, but we will do our best to be expeditious through this presentation. So how do utility rate trends impact the city? Bakersfield is in one of the highest utility rate regions in the state of California. Your current rates, as you can see on the top left of the slide there, we have obviously intimate knowledge of the city's specific commercial rates related to your buildings and other commercial and industrial properties throughout the city, and then also the residential rates as well. So that spreads anywhere from a blended rate, which combines consumption or kilowatt hours and kilowatts demand to come up with this cost per kilowatt hour unit, ranging from about 28 cents to 42 cents per kilowatt hour, consistent with CalChoice's analysis. And then on the residential side, it's actually about 34 cents to 48 cents a kilowatt hour for your standard citizens rates. So the trend over the last 5 years has been an average utility rate increase of about 10.2%. Annually, and that's not the same every single year. Some years lower, some years higher, but over that 5-year period, it's been the average. So realistically, when you look at 10 years from now in 2036, your this commercial scenario would escalate to nearly 45 to 65% increase in utility costs for the city and for other commercial users, and so that's just indicative of what rates will continue to do over the course of escalation over the next few years. How does that impact the city's goals? And you've obviously had numerous budget talks and other ways to be as efficient as the city as possible right now. And the bottom line is, as utility rates continue to increase without the ability to make up that loss on increasing expenditures, utility costs are going to further exacerbate a lot of your operational costs as a city, and then obviously creating increasing challenges in the imbalance in revenues and expenditures for the city, and further causing issues within the budget, particularly the general fund, as you try to continue to balance that as well. And obviously, the same goes for your standard citizens and commercial and industrial users as well, cutting into discretionary income and increasing expenditures for everyone. So why now for municipal energy? Well, the benefits that we want to speak to this evening are putting the city in a better position to reduce these rates, not only for the city, but obviously for the community, citizens, and commercial ratepayers. You know, being able to show you opportunities to prevent further budget cuts, staff reductions, or raising taxes elsewhere to offset these increasing costs, and providing that general fund relief that was discussed earlier through cost allocations to a new enterprise and other means as well. In addition, creating absolutely new revenue streams for the city and increasing economic development pursuits, making Bakersfield attractive to new industries and other commercial and residential developers to want to be a part of these type of utility areas that we're going to speak to here shortly. So I'm going to actually hand it off to Jason now to talk a little bit about the rate spread. And
Mayor
Welcome,
Goh,
Mr. Cottle.
Mayor Goh, council members, good to see you again, Mayor. Thanks for having the opportunity to have me today. I'm Jason Cottle. I'm the CEO for First Public Hydrogen Authority. And just quick background on what that is. We are a JPA of cities, Fresno, Shafter, Lancaster, Industry, Montebello, and more to come, who are engaged and active in the municipal energy space. And what we found, I was the former city manager of Lancaster as well as the former city manager in Tehachapi, heavily focused on energy, CCA specifically, but then also behind the meter efforts like you're working with Wildan. But also we started engaging and say, how do we handle some off-grid demand issues from an economic development perspective? As you know, when new companies come, when jobs are created, there's a heavy demand on the energy system. There's a heavy demand on the costs you can see about those systems. So when you look at a new developer, a new development opportunity, they're balancing, they're weighing their options between Bakersfield, potentially Nevada, Arizona, whatever we're talking about. Energy rates are a key component of that. So at the time in Lancaster, our mayor said, let's figure out a solution for that, right? How do we engage in identifying off-grid solutions that are cheaper than the incumbent utilities? Cities have a very unique authority under the Constitution to do municipal energy. And we have history of doing that far cheaper. And you look at the opportunities. There's a number of different opportunities in the way you engage in municipal energy. We talked about CCAs as well. That's one opportunity. When you look at the behind-the-meter opportunities that Wildan is talking about, that's another opportunity where you have complete and absolute control over that. You can put them on your building, save money, no cost to you. There's some others that are very unique in this setting for municipal government. That's actually create a spot municipal utility where you actually become the service provider of that utility to your customers and future development. There are ways you engage in the energy space with regard to hydrogen as it relates to demand management and DER programs that they talked about, where you can actually provide services on an off-grid basis to agencies with not only a combination of solar, battery, hydrogen, some natural gas resources, that you can actually be the provider of energy to some of these resources and accomplish that through your utility itself. A couple examples of where this is happening. The members that we're working with are engaging on a number of different levels. So when you look at Lancaster, Lancaster has just entered in through a partnership with First Public Hydrogen Authority, the development of a completely off-grid 300 megawatt data center. So if you look at the volume of energy that's coming through a data center, not only property taxes that are generated off that data center, use taxes and sales taxes that come off that data center, but also margin on the energy. If you look at the energy production from a Southern California Edison or a PG&E, you're looking at 35 cents per kilowatt hour. As it relates to that margin between 35 cents, you're looking at 15-cent kilowatt hour off-grid. So that's the kind of savings we're talking about, the margins that are opportunities for your community. And it's not just data centers. These are neighborhoods. These are opportunities for commercial, new commercial opportunities that are happening. That you have these opportunity with solar, battery, and this technology, hydrogen, to participate in that. City of Industry, a member of ours, has their own municipal utility. So they have their own wires, they have their own production, they have their connection. They're working on some users where they're integrating hydrogen, not only for the mobility sector. If you're familiar with Industry, they're very close to the port and they have a lot of rail and transportation issues, very similar to Bakersfield. You have this opportunity to engage in the mobility space as well, actually powering mobility with the city and with hydrogen. Fresno has their Fresno Express, which is a hydrogen-powered bus The Get Bus already has some hydrogen-powered buses as well. So we have cities that are engaging in the mobility space and the decarbonization of their transit systems. Cities have the ability to do this and are engaged in that. Montebello is a good example of a transit agency as well. And uniquely, Rancho Cucamonga, as well as many others, Rancho Cucamonga is a great example. They're not a member of our agency, but they have successfully implemented a spot municipalization, where if you go through Bass Pro Shops, or if you're familiar with Rancho Cucamonga, Bass Pro Shops, Victoria Gardens is supplied energy by Rancho Cucamonga. Their prices are about 40% less than the incumbent utility. So they have these processes as cities that many times when we talk to councils, we talk to other city managers, we know we have these authorities, but sometimes we don't know how. And then one thing we've learned from our perspective, working in cities for 25 years, the formation of being a member of CalChoice, is that there's strength in numbers, right? When we work together, we have these unique opportunities to accomplish greater goals. And I think that's part of the conversation today is, let's see what we can do in Bakersfield together as communities. I know some of your assets you may have. You have 6,000 acres of land that is being utilized for, maybe underutilized. How do we turn that into revenue-generating assets, whether it be production of energy or development of some kind, right? You have some master plan communities that are coming in. I know Bakersfield very well, living in Tehachapi. How do we engage in those developments and potentially have them connecting to a microgrid that you guys manage and own and operate to save them money, but also generate revenue? So there's some serious opportunities in municipal energy, and would love to engage with you as a member of First Public or as partnering with your staff to try to accomplish some of these goals with you guys. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kyle.
Thanks, Jason. And we did just want to show another quick case study example that's very specific, I think, to a lot of the interests that we've discussed with city staff to date. So this is actually a concept of full turnkey delivery of a microgrid for a private developer by the Willdan team, where we fully designed and implemented the project turnkey for that private developer. Developer fully funded and financed the project, and the city actually elected to sell the property, which is actually the more short-sighted solution than what we're proposing this evening, which is the city is the spot muni, owns the energy assets, and benefits from all of this increased revenue and utility spread as part of being their own municipal utility or JPA. So on a scale of how this would look for Bakersfield, it makes a lot of sense in a lot of the different areas in town with significant growth, not only near new transmission lines going in the southeast part of the city, but as Jason alluded to, really the opportunity to be off-grid as well. And so this project generated significant savings for the actual commercial industrial client. Had the city kept these generation resources for themselves, they would have been able to obtain tens of millions of dollars a year in increased revenue for the city. And so again, this is just an example we wanted to show you of our ability to fully design, develop, construct, build the substation, all of the infrastructure to the utility infrastructure, the interconnection, to do all of this, in one partnership with the city. So as far as proposed next steps, I guess the ask this evening is to move forward with a preliminary analysis with our city, or with our team, to look at municipal utility and utility scale DER opportunities, either in very specific locations or maybe a little bit more hypothetically about just what options may make sense for the city. We can work with the city manager's office and Public Works on what may make sense. As far as the city's commitment for this, we're willing to conduct this initial preliminary analysis at no cost to the city, with your only real commitment to providing time and feedback and direction for us when we do come back with the deliverables. We'll draft up a memorandum of understanding, defines the scope of work, the zero cost, obviously, to the city, deliverables, economic analysis, timeline, and other expectations, that are set forth by the city. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Storm. Mr. Clegg?
Mayor and Council, at this point, we don't have additional presentation content, so we're happy to take council questions.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, are there members of the public who wish to speak?
Mayor Go, we've received one speaker card from Michael Turnipseed.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Michael Turnipseed, I represent the Kern County Taxpayers Association. We spent a lot of time the last few days when we saw this was on the agenda. We spent a lot of hours trying to find a feasibility study that was conducted, and evidently it's not readily available. It wasn't on your website, but we had a PowerPoint presentation that made it virtually impossible for us to comment on. Once again, this is an ongoing problem with the city. So we have some questions. How can the council and the public comment on the direction of the CAA without a feasibility study and, more important, time to review it? It appears the city in the past, the initial feasibility stage, and it seems that they're past the feasibility stage, and moving into a data validation, implementation, pathway evaluation, eventual governance, and launch decisions. The council obviously did not learn from the previous sewer debacle. The city should not be directing staff to move forward, but the council should be directing staff to proceed with the community outreach and education efforts. Not too long ago, we had a disaster when proper outreach didn't happen. Information the public needs to know is not just project cost, but how it will affect residential and business bills, both solar and non-solar customers, the additional understanding of the process and not participation in the CAA, and possible costs. And then there's the thing that's not mentioned called the PCIA exit costs that vary tremendously by who you are. And the last time the city of Bakersfield had a chance to renew their franchise agreement with PG&E, was usually for 50 years, they gave PG&E an evergreen contract. Evergreen contracts go on forever. Have you explored what that means and what complications that's going to bring you? Because the city has not filed the last 2 years of consolidated annual financial reports, how can not only the citizenry, but the financial institutions and investors needed to finance this project know what the city's actual financial status is? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Consider
Turnipseed.
this deeply before you make any uneducated moves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turnipseed. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else from the public?
Mayor Go, that was our only public speaker regarding this item.
Thank you. We'll now go to council for comment. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff and consultants, for the presentation. I appreciate it. Yes, I've been talking about this for some time, and it has never been, just the CCA and the 1 or 2% savings, 3% that could be had there, but it was the opportunities because of the acreage that Bakersfield owns and the opportunity to be the power provider and therefore make a real difference in how we serve our constituents. As stated, and this is relatively new to me, is the DER opportunities and the municipal utility and the opportunities it gives us for bringing businesses in. We've tried numerous times and had trouble bringing businesses in because of PG&E's problems. Our Cal Dairy's success was partly because they ended up putting up their own solar field and bypassing PG&E. And at our budget meeting, it's obvious that we need to grow businesses in this community. That's the part of our tax base that is too small. And so this would help bring in businesses. It's a great opportunity, and many cities are moving forward. And, you know, we can sit and do nothing, or we can try and be on the forefront and make our city better. And that's what I would propose. So I will make a motion if we seem to be headed that way, but I'll listen to what the other council members think. Thank you.
Thank you. Other requests to speak? Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Can somebody answer this question for me? In order to do these other things that Wildan talked about, I guess creating a joint powers agreement, do we need to have a CCA to be able to do that? Or can we just generate power and sell it to the utility?
Yeah, they're not one and the same. You can be a CCA and you can be a municipal utility. You can be a municipal utility without being a CCA. So they're very distinct and separate programs.
All right, so I feel like you guys jammed a bunch of stuff together here that overwhelms this decision-making process here. I think they're two separate things to talk about. On the CCA part, there's a woman from the CCA here.
Ms. Boswell.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was your name? Barbara? Hi, Barbara. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your presentation. I had a chance to attend a presentation. I'm not sure if the Wildanda did it or whoever did it regarding the CCAs, and I've done a little bit of my own studying on this, and so I just have a few questions. From what I can tell, there's been no new CCAs approved since '24. Is that correct?
There's been cities that have joined CCAs, but I don't know that there's been any new CCAs since &24. But Clean Power Alliance in Los Angeles has had cities join them in the past year. And I believe also a CCA in PG&E territory has had a new community join them. So cities have brought CCA to their community, but not necessarily a new CCA.
Isn't it true that some cities are withdrawing from CCAs?
There have been, but I'm not aware of any currently.
Okay. This is called community choice, but basically it requires the people to opt out. So if we were to initiate that, people would automatically be on the CCA payment plan or whatever it is that was run by the city. And so I would have to opt out of that in order to go back to PG&E, correct?
Correct. So the way the law was written, it was written that all customers within the city's boundaries would be automatically enrolled with the opportunity or the availability to opt out. And so with that law, we're required to notice customers at least 2 months prior to the initiation of the enrollment, and then 2 months afterwards. Even after that, customers can opt out at any time.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your answering my questions. Thank you. From my standpoint, I'm just not, like I said, I think we just crammed a bunch of stuff in here together. I think we need to look at the CCA is whether or not we really want to do something like that. And then we need to look at what we can do with our land to generate power. And I think that those are two separate discussions. So I can't support whatever this is we're asking for tonight. I'm a little concerned that this enthusiasm for CCAs is diminishing as regulations come in and we have more oversight, and also the issue of the cost savings and what it takes to create that. I just don't see the benefit, and frankly, I can't see us creating a CCA and going out and telling everybody that they're now on the city of Bakersfield's power grid. When your power goes out, you're going to call PG&E because they're the ones that fix the wires. So I just don't see that. So I would like to have another conversation about the joint powers or something of that nature, but for now, I can't support this.
Any other requests for comment? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just first and foremost want to thank my colleagues and thank Councilmember Smith in particular for bringing this forward a few years ago. I think it's really important for us as elected leaders to look towards the future and look at new possibilities of continuous improvement for the city of Bakersfield. And I appreciate this coming to the council and for us to continuously look at how this might fit for the citizens of Bakersfield. I respect my colleagues' remarks from Councilmember Coleman, and I want to thank you for those concerns as well. But I hope that the council can continue this conversation and not close the door on it tonight, because I think there's some real opportunities here. I do, though, want us to, along the council, along with staff, to really identify what real problem we're trying to solve. I mean, there's one is utility rates for ratepayers that continue to escalate year over year. I think we heard it was something like on average 10% each year over the last 5 years. That's one real problem. And if there's a solution that we can reduce rates for the ratepayer, I think that's a worthwhile and worthy cause. We can debate if 2 to 3% is worth all of this work, and I think that's a fair debate. The second concern, though, or issue, is with regard to how much money this might generate for the city of Bakersfield. I would not support this if that was our sole motive here, and I don't think I heard that from anyone, but I want to be cautious that we're not pursuing this endeavor to somehow meet some of our structural financial issues within the city. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. I think that's a good point. We, as staff, we have not considered this to be a revenue generator to help support the general fund. If we would pursue this, we see it much more as a benefit to ratepayers, a benefit to community programming, and a benefit to economic development. Ultimately, I think, does it help us in the general fund to have some savings and we're not paying higher rates? I think those are valid benefits, but we're not looking to this to be a revenue generator to support general fund operations, no.
Great. And then I think the third problem is, how do we spur economic development and job growth within our region, which is critical. It is critical that we figure out how we can lead the way as a city to generate new, good-paying jobs for our local workforce. And we need to bring in new industries, and we know that when we are working to bring in new industry, there are certain bottlenecks, and part of that is connectivity. And so I think that if this is a potential solution for us to help energize projects and sites much more quickly, I think that's an opportunity that we ought to pursue and explore as well. And so I'm in support of us continuously looking at this and continue to work on some areas here that might make sense for the city. And again, I want to thank all the presenters. I want to thank Councilmember Smith for bringing this to the City Council's attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to all of those who came and spoke to us today. I feel like I learn more and more about CCAs each time that it comes to the council. So much to unpack. I'll start with some of the positives that I saw in the presentation. I agree with my colleague that there are thousands of acres of underutilized land, some of which are in Southeast Bakersfield and in Ward 1. that would tremendously benefit from an investment of large-scale solar. I think that that's true for just about every single ward in the city of Bakersfield, and I would love to see, some additional analysis of what we could do with that existing land. So that was number one. Number two is diversifying our energy portfolio in general, finding those unique ways to diversify. What is coming through our lines, I think, is going to make us more independent as a community and as a city. But I did have some concerns about the CCA itself. I saw on there that it's a $6.8 million cost for implementation. Can we speak to how we would fund that and/or finance that number?
Yeah, thank you, Council Member. We didn't specify that in particular in our presentation, so I appreciate the opportunity to clarify on that. We do not anticipate trying to generate that much budgeted expenditures from our existing, general fund resources. We can't afford that level of expense. It's fairly typical to finance the startup of a CCA, and then those financing costs are actually paid back by the revenues, generated into the CCA. And we have not proposed a specific financing mechanism, but I don't think that it's feasible in our current, fiscal circumstances to do this without some kind of a financing mechanism. That would be our recommendation if we moved forward.
Got it. So if I hear you correctly, it probably won't amount to that $6.8 million amount initially, and we would look for some sort of financing mechanism to be able to cover those costs initially.
Absolutely, and I would just to add a little bit more detail. As was noted, we wouldn't be moving into an implementation cycle until 2028. There could be some startup costs that we may contemplate from our own resources, as well as sort of the initial step would be completing the application itself. There's a minimal cost towards that, as noted in the administrative report. But the lion's share of the $16 million would be financed. Yes.
Got it. In the past, I believe we've talked about there being a required team or even department within the city of Bakersfield in order to operationalize and maintain the CCAs. That's still the case, and what would the scope and size of that team look like?
Great questions, Council Member. Again, Mayor and Council, my recommendation would be that we contract out for the majority of the functions that can be contracted out, just as a starting point. There's other ways we could create our entire own department to try and carry out all of those functions, but I would argue, as was noted earlier, that there is strength in numbers. There's also expertise that's been developed by these other CCAs or JPAs that have CCAs. And so my recommendation would be that we contract out as much of that as possible. We would probably still need a small team. That's probably like 3 to 4 people who would be responsible for managing those other contracts and managing some of the local aspects that need to happen here at the local level. For sake of just knowledge of options, we could also piece out certain components. For example, the analytics and the purchasing of power. We are not experts at that, and we could create job descriptions, but I would much rather allow other people who have that expertise to do that work. But if we wanted to separate out, let's say, customer service or billings, there's some ways you could split that up, but I think it makes the most sense to contract that out to other entities and have a very small team at the city.
Got it. Thank you. My next question is related to, I believe that there's a franchise surcharge fee that has been utilized as revenues to the city of Bakersfield to pay for things like the TRIP program in the past and potentially other roads constructions projects. Is that true? And do we know how much it's bringing in on an annual basis?
We do have a utility surcharge that has been used for some of our local transportation funding. I don't have that number top of mind, and actually I'm not certain how the formation of the CCA actually impacts that. If there are others who can speak to that, I'm happy to have them speak to that, but I don't have that answer on how that surcharge is impacted.
Ms.
Yes.
Buzzell.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The formation of a CCA does not impact the franchise fees that are collected by the cities from PG&E. The PG&E's franchise fees would still be stay the same. Those fees are based on what they would have charged customers if they were providing the generation portion, which is what the CCA takes over, and that's still billed to the customers, and it's still paid and comes to the city. So the general fund revenues don't change.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Can I make one additional clarification as well? Councilman Coleman's inquiry earlier, the Wildan and utility generation is completely mutually exclusive of the CCA decision. So while the CCA will open up doors for what we can do, there's much beyond that that we're proposing to you this evening as well. So I just wanted to make that clarification that we are not here for the CCA. We are here for the utility DER opportunities for the city.
And I really appreciate that clarification because I think I'm more interested in that component to this work. I think from just based on all the information that's been provided, the CCA, while it may provide benefits, although marginal to ratepayers, there's a tremendous amount of risk and investment that is necessary to get that up and running. And I agree with my colleague, Councilmember Coleman. I wouldn't be ready to move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Core.
Thank you. Councilmember Arias asked a lot of the questions I had, so I'll save some time. First, thank you for this conversation. There are a few truths that exist that, one, our constituents are feeling that their electricity bills are very high. But the truth also is that we need PG&E today as it stands. In the summer, my ward, I think South Bakersfield, experiences power outages, and that's when I'm calling and bothering everyone that I can as to how we resolve that. And the truth also is that we need more capacity. We need grid power. We need somewhere to put this energy, even as we diversify it. More often than not, we're meeting with developers, both family developers, local, as well as corporate developers, and usually one of the places in which we find a sticking point or projects face delays is when they're coming online. I do have a few questions to just seek some more information and for public knowledge, since we have a lot more information here with us than that's available to our residents that are in attendance. You've shared that you are working with some of our neighboring cities, the city of Shafter, city of Fresno. Can you speak to a little bit more as to what the work there is, how it transpired? Because I think it makes for us to have a better understanding of fellow Central Valley cities and how that emerged and how we could possibly see that here in the city of Bakersfield.
Mr. Cobb.
Sure, thank you. As I mentioned, Fresno and Shafter, specifically in the Central Valley, are members of our agency, and each of them very unique and very different. Fresno's case, they're converting their bus fleets to hydrogen powered, so they're decarbonizing their bus fleets by law. We're all required to do that. So they're engaging in the purchase and aggregation of supply of hydrogen. So if we need to acquire hydrogen as a group of cities, if we're just small users, we have zero impact in the market. If we all join together and buy all of our hydrogen together, we now have a bigger case and a bigger opportunity with the goal of building green hydrogen developed in California, which doesn't exist. That's kind of where the transit agencies fit. When you look at Shafter, they've got a inland port they're working on. I think you're obviously neighbors of yours with your inland port too. There's a significant volume of goods that go from Shafter and Bakersfield directly to the ports. The ports have rules or requirements to decarbonize their fleets. So every truck that goes into the port, there's a fee charged if they're not decarbonized. So Shafter, hopefully you guys too, can engage in that process of decarbonizing these fleets where they're going directly into the ports with zero emission buses or zero emission trucks that exist in the marketplace that can be fueled in Bakersfield, that the hydrogen can be manufactured potentially on that 6,000 acres you talk about. So there's this integration of this energy system that municipal entities have very unique opportunities to engage in. So you can generate power with them. You can move vehicles with them and move goods with them. In addition, the ports have a significant amount of revenue and grant money to actually decarbonize their fleet. So we would look to Shafter as some of their member agencies. It would say some of their users, their economic development there, how to engage in some of those funding opportunities to decarbonize their trucks as well. So that's kind of where they're engaged. Shafter has also expressed interest in the manufacture of hydrogen. You can take ag waste and forest waste. We're working in Sacramento. They care about forest waste and ag waste. Obviously, ag waste in the Central Valley is very huge from an air quality perspective. You can turn that ag waste into affordable hydrogen and put those in your trucks and decarbonize that space. So that was kind of where engaged there, and would engage with you in that same level.
Could you share for our Get Bus system, where do they acquire hydrogen from? Do we know?
I do not know.
Okay. Do we know? They have their own. They have their own. Okay. Thank you for sharing the example of the city of Shafter. And then, sorry, you may have to come back up. I have a few more questions. Can you speak to, you've worked as far as Marin to as local as Shafter and going south. As the CCAs were coming online, what were challenges but also pleasant surprises in any of those kind of case studies that you could share that would kind of address some of the curiosities that folks would have about CCAs?
Absolutely, thank you. So we'll use Lancaster as a perfect example as the former city manager there. There were a number of programs we implemented as a result of CCA. The DER messaging that you heard today is where the city of Lancaster has the opportunity to actually be the provider of that solar and battery on somebody's rooftop, right? So if your residents are saying, my PG&E bills are too high, you could develop a program, I would say with CCA or without CCA, that says, we want to beat PG&E's rates, City of Bakersfield has a program, right? We can engage with developers to put solar and battery on your rooftop for free. Mm-hmm. You save the money on your electric bill, but there's financing structures and ways to do that. You can do it for renters, right? Where renters typically wouldn't get solar on their house because the tenant or the landlord's not going to do it because the renter's paying the electric bill. To engage in that from a standpoint of lowering their energy bills for your tenants and renters. We've done things as much as commercialize. We've got a brewery who took battery and solar on there, and their brewery lowered their prices through a city program. We've got multiple cities that are doing different programs. In Santa Barbara, who is in CalChoice, they're not so price conscious. So they've got a 100% green grid that they've chosen as a city to say we want green matters to us. So they've chosen to do that. So there's in every case, each city is very unique. Each city has their own story to tell because of CCA. And then in the same token, you've got somebody like Rancho Cucamonga who doesn't have a CCA, and they have their own spot muni where they can say we've got new development along that corridor that is 40% cheaper from an economic development perspective. So we all have these unique stories to tell with CCA or without CCA.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. I was also curious about your, there's spot muni, but also there's the microgrid systems for private developers. Can you share, because Councilmember Coleman's point, we have received a lot of information. Can you break down how that has kind of come online in other municipalities and what that could look like in a city like Bakersfield if that is an option that is pursued here locally?
Sure. So if you look at, I'll use Rancho Cucamonga example or industry as an example. Industry is a city that has their own municipal utility. So when you look at their needs for providing services, a data center is looking in industry. Industry has the ability to provide them energy, right? They also have the ability to provide them resilience from a standpoint of the energy services associated with that. When you look at an off-grid or a microgrid perspective, take your 6,000 acres, depending on what demand there is, and I don't know specifically everything about the 6,000 acres or its location or proximity, but if you have a large volume of acres that are proximate to new development, whether that be data, logistics, or housing, or you have the ability to generate that solar and that energy on site, store it with batteries, store it with hydrogen, use natural gas fuel cells, where you can actually provide energy to that entire complex completely off-grid. So the city would be the actual utility provider for the wires, the power, and everything associated with it. An example of, we looked at a 200-unit housing tract where solar and battery on the rooftop would generate enough electrons to power that neighborhood 24/7, 365. never connected to the grid. There was a resilience issues where now you bring in hydrogen and a fuel cell. Now you've got an operating microgrid that'll never shut off in a power shutoff, that the city completely owns and operates that system and generates revenue off that system. And the way we looked at the rate structure was far less than the incumbent utility. If you picture the cost of generating solar, solar is about 4 cents a kilowatt hour to make an electron with a solar panel. We're getting charged 50 and 60 cents a kilowatt hour. The minute it touches the grid, the minute everything spikes from a pricing perspective. So whatever you can do to stay off of that grid, you're going to save money.
Yeah, we have, the Caladeras example locally, and I'm in agreement with Councilmember Gonzalez's point of, our economic and job development is dire in the Central Valley, and so anything we're doing in that department of being exploratory is a conversation to be had. I do feel these are two different conversations that could have been two different conversations, and certainly while also on the same topic, and in having more conversations, I do feel this should be a collective community decision. If we are proceeding further with doing more research, I think we need more community input, and we bring in local industry, local institutions, even educational institutions, and those who are building and providing energy jobs locally, and that be something that we have a conversation we have collectively, if it's already not had, in exploring what a CCA looks like in our entire city community. Is that something we've already done? Is that something that could be explored?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It is not something we have done, but it is, just for some context, again, we wanted to, before we invest significant staff time and also I think even your collective time and some of our resources, this was sort of a checkpoint to say, what's the level of interest and do we continue this conversation further? I sense that there's clearly interest in further thinking through it, but that we're not collectively all prepared to move forward at this point in time. But even in the case of the CCA as just one of the two paths, the process between now and 2028 was planned to include significant community outreach, significant community engagement. I think because there are a couple different ways we could solve some of these key problems as have been identified by council, I do think that it makes sense to take a little bit more time and flesh out some of the differentiations between those options. Again, I sense that there's enough interest that it's worth our time to engage with key developers and community partners on some of these options at a high level, and then be able to come back to council with a little bit more information before we invest even further in both dollars as well as our time in pursuing down that path. So I appreciate the growing knowledge of how these tools can be distinct. We thought that there was connectivity and strategy that could often better to have that broader information for this council as we try to balance how much information versus other times where there's not enough information. And so I think it makes sense for us to be able to, what I'm hearing, the feedback here is, while we look at both potential strategies, do a little bit of decoupling of those and look at the opportunities and alternatives that both of those options create, as well as do a little bit more engagement, and then we can come back and take a little bit of a deeper dive after we provide that additional analysis to council.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I think what I'm hearing is the DER part of the proposal. The Wildan stuff seems to be pretty acceptable, so I would move to go forward with that. And I think what I'm hearing is CCA, let's stop and look, which I think is basically what we were doing. I mean, there was quite some time before we got out, so I'll listen to my colleagues some more, but I think definitely to go forward with the Wildan $0 proposal is not a very hard sell. And I think there is some synergies. Maybe Jason, could you speak to what synergies may be had with the CCA and the municipal utility?
Yeah, I think when we look at CCA, for my experience in my career, is that engaging in CCA gave you a base level of understanding of the energy markets, right? And I think that was very key, but a lot of us have learned that already, right? So when you look at where your margins lie in that energy market, you have margins in the CCA space, you have margins in the spot muni space, you have margins in the DER space. When you look at that margin of opportunity, the greater margins are in those other spaces, municipal utilities, spot munis, and others. When I say margin, opportunities for saving money for your citizens, right? So when you look at CCA, there's a heavy lift, right? But there's synergies there. But at the same token, when you look at the margins in this energy space, the margins are not at CCA. That makes sense.
If I may, Councilmember Smith, in your agenda, we had 3 different bullet points as part of staff recommendation, city council potential recommendations to staff. And the third bullet there says to provide direction to staff regarding whether to proceed with utility scale DER implementation planning. I think we would probably need to come back to you with a recommendation about an MOU and what process to follow. But I think if you give direction tonight to say yes, come back to us with some recommendations on utility scale DER, we could take it from there.
Okay.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion. Thank you.
Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
This is for Mr. Clegg, and I appreciate the presentation very much. You did a great job. I'm a little frustrated because the past few meetings have felt a little bit like this is Shark Tank. We have someone pitch an idea for their company, and then we get to make a decision. But the problem is, this is taxpayer money. This is none of our businesses, and we have a company just like a few meetings ago, a real estate agent, pitching on why we should buy a building, and he's going to make the fattest commission of his life off of it, and we're supposed to just take that as an unbiased opinion as why we make a decision. The same thing tonight. I would have much rather had some of these other communities that are engaged in some of these contracts, their feedback, so we have some unbiased, like, hey, is it working for you? Does it work? Versus, hey, buy what we're pitching, and hopefully it works out, and you guys don't have any recourse to know if it's good or bad. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I appreciate what y'all are doing, and I'm sure there's some truth to it, but I represent the tax people and my constituents, and it seems well, but it's one-sided. We're getting a sales pitch. That's what last time was. This is another sales pitch as to what we do, and it means well, but it's bias. The whole thing is bias. We're not getting both sides of it. We're going to get, this is why you should do business with our company because we're going to X, Y, and Z. I mean, like, this is sales through and through. And it's a little bit frustrating with that. So I would be happy to learn more about this from some unbiased sources and some people that have maybe done it or in it right now and how it works out for them before we move forward. But I really don't want to, spend my city council career hearing sales pitches over and over again. So that's all I'm going to say about this.
Thank you. Madam, do you wish to say anything?
I was just going to point out, I appreciate the feedback, council member. I would argue respectfully, we've gone through procurement processes that are competitive that have multiple individual or multiple companies or consultancies that can acquire those contracts. And I would ask you to also consider that city staff is looking at the multiple different options. And so there is objectivity in this process. I appreciate the feedback about having other folks who can also come as other municipalities. But we've given many references to those municipalities tonight as well. And so we do build in processes that help to have transparency and objectivity, as well as city staff review and analysis of those. But I do take your feedback to heart about wanting to provide as objective of feedback as possible for the city council to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. Madam City Attorney, would you just clarify the motion before we vote, please?
Yes, of course, Mayor. With Councilmember Smith's motion, I believe clarified, the motion is to move forward to provide direction to staff to proceed with utility-scale distributed energy resources implementation planning with an understanding that additional information and a potential contract would return to council.
Is that clear, everyone?
Clear, but I believe I had sent a request to speak.
Oh, I see you have put a request to speak. Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry to jump
Magically
in here
appeared.
one last time, because I'm concerned about the zero cost to the city, and I guess I wanted to ask you what the relationship is Willdan and the city currently, because a zero cost survey or study when Willdan is going to gain from that concerns me a little bit that it's not objective. And so I think I was saying what other council people were saying. So,
yeah, take care.
If I may, before the city manager responds, that's one reason for clarifying the motion. A Willdan specific proposal is not on the agenda for a vote tonight. There's not a proposed contract. It
is. It says right here, it's conducted by Willdan at a zero cost to the city.
Councilmember Coleman, that's in the presentation. I think what our deputy city attorney is referencing is the agenda packet itself. And we wanted to clarify, though, that motion again, because we do have some of our processes that we need to follow as well. Just to answer your prior question about our relationship. So we conducted a very thorough RFP process, and it was 18 months ago? About 18 months ago, to contract with an entity that could provide us analysis and recommendations related to energy efficiency and other energy savings projects. And it was, again, a very thorough process, very competitive. Some of you may recall that we had several different vendors who were vying strongly for that contract. And so we are under contract currently with Willdan to provide that level of analysis, again, through a process and an approval by the City Council about a year and a half ago. But I do think that the feedback is fair from Council about what does it really mean to have a zero cost analysis? What would that lead to? Could it lead to other jobs, subsequent? That's why we're not asking Council to make a motion to pursue that specifically, but to really direct staff to go and follow up on the DER possibilities and consider what's the best process to acquire those services.
I have no further questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Coleman. Anyone else? Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. I thought I heard two separate, spot muni and DER. Are they one and the same, separate, same? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So
my motion stands.
Your motion stands, and you have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent and Council members Coleman and Bashir Tosh voting no.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you presenters. And now, next item, please.
Council and Mayor statements.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just didn't want March to get away without saying congratulations to Christian Clegg. 6 years since March of 2020, and you're still here. You must be over the 80 percentile by now as far as how long people have stayed in city manager's post. Appreciate working with you, and many more years, I hope. Thank you.
Councilmember Coleman.
I almost forgot I pushed the button. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say happy spring, and tomorrow, MLB baseball, we're on. Opening day of baseball, so Dodger Stadium.
Thank you. Councilmember Arias.
Just as exciting as baseball, we have the first development review process ad hoc committee coming up on April 6th, which is a Monday. That is a joke. I'm just kidding. But the meeting is actually happening. It's the first. Been a long time coming. I'll be joining Councilmembers Coleman and Councilmember Smith, and we invite everybody, who develops any types of projects to come and learn more about our processes and figure out with us how we can make them better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. In the spirit of March and March Madness, hopefully someone's bracket is still intact. But March is also Women's History Month, so I just wanted to congratulate our mayor for being a woman in leadership, and all of the women, our city attorney, our assistant city attorneys, all the women at the city of Bakersfield. We recognize you. Thank you for being leading voices in every corner of our city and serving our constituents and the people who love Bakersfield and call it home.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Last week, one of our solid waste employees, Jesus Carrera, passed away from cancer. Jesus was known as Chewy, and he worked for 21 years in the city of Bakersfield. He supervised teams that were involved with the Downtown Street Ambassadors, our Clean City initiatives, and bulky item drop-off events. He was extremely kind. He was a devoted worker for the city, and we mourn his loss. And I would ask for a moment of silence at this time. Thank you. Our thoughts and prayers are with Chewy's family, his friends, our colleagues in the Public Works Department. And in Chewy's honor, we adjourn this meeting at 7:22.